We still do 7 NUFC Matters show a week for free. But if you want to help support NUFC Matters, then there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast and video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications bell so you don't miss a single show. If you want to help us financially, then you can join the channel using this button with the membership starting at $1.99 a month. Or you can drop us a donation in the chat using a super sticker. We're also looking for sponsors. If you'd like your brand advertised on the flyers for the show and featured during the ad break, then email john@nufcmatters.com to arrange today.
Critics attack. It feels like I've been talking to myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true. And it feels alright when they come and say to you, you're the only thing that makes us all believe. And it feels alright where the worlds collide. Manipulation stands to make us break. What I said is coming over you. You wish it upon a star. You wish it on a star. You are, you are, you are. You fight back, it's an all-out attack. It feels like I've been taken on the world's machine. Because I want it more than anyone can dream. You look back and it's all in the past. You tell me how you live by all the things you do. Well, you can be yourself, but maybe I'm not you. And it feels alright when they come and say to you, you're the only thing that makes us all.
Good evening, welcome along to NUFC Matters. It is the Joe Allon show. How are you, Joe?
Very good, Steve. Good weather for ducks.
Good weather for ducks. You're not wrong, mate. We're starting to get the start of autumn and heading into winter quite quickly, and another international break. This show's going to be slightly different. I am going to get Joe's views on the Everton game, but then we're going to have a little delve into the history of Joe Allon. A lot of you know who Joe is and probably have seen him on the after dinner circuit over the years. But he's got some great stories, and we're gonna talk a little bit about them today. So bear with us. We're going to have a chat about the Everton match first. Joe, we did a watch along on the Big Up channel the other day, which was great. And yeah, I mean, look, I think we've all agreed on this platform over the last few days. You know, it was 2 points dropped. 1 point gained at a place we got nothing last season. But overall, the performance was good. We just lacked that cutting edge.
For sure. I mean, you know, Steve, we mentioned about possession in a game, and it's great having 78, 82% possession, what have you. But if you don't turn that possession into goals, you know, I mean, I've been in games before when you're never getting a kick and you win 1-0. At the end of the day, the supporter's gone happy because you won 1-0. They want an entertaining team. You know, we've had all that before, haven't we? With the great entertainers, but at the same time, you want a winning team. And, you know, I will say it was 2 points dropped. I was a little bit disappointed, you know, that a couple of changes weren't made. You know, I think I've spoken about it on Saturday. We'll speak about it again. But, you know, if you're going out to win a game, you know, come up with a little bit more strategy, a little bit more, you know, have a gamble, if you like. I didn't think we were going to lose the game. I really didn't. Not from the first minute, if you like. But you know, then you're getting chances into the box, like the amount of crosses that were coming in off that possession. You know, you need somebody on the end of them. You need somebody to stick that ball in the onion bag.
I mean, was it time to bring a Stühler on? You know, should we have given him the last 10, 15 minutes, Joe? Would that have made the difference, you know, for him? You've been in that situation yourself. Everybody needs a chance at some point.
When's going to be the right time for the lad? You know, you've paid money for him, a lot of money. I mean, relatively, I suppose, not in these days. But you know, when's he going to get his chance? You know, like I said at the weekend, you know, if you're a player and you're on the fringes, you know, I don't know what he's doing in training, but he's obviously fit enough. He looked well and good, you know, when he played in the Wimbledon game. But I'm praying on the manager's door, you know, if I'm him. And I don't want to know why I'm not playing, why am I not getting a chance, why am I not getting a sniff? You know, and that is a game at 0-0, you know, to bring on the attacker. You know, he's sitting there on the bench. He probably, you know, it takes 1 second to score a goal. The lad at Aston Villa, God, he can't stop scoring coming on the bench. He's the new David Fairclough. Past days, if anybody can remember, the super sub, the original super sub with ginger hair. I mean, what two things would you need? I mean, it'd be brilliant, ginger hair and scoring goals off the bench. I mean, it's a winner. You should know that. But at the same time, you know, you're looking at maybe even changes in the personnel that was on the pitch.
Yeah.
I mean, people forget, I think, that we paid 40 million for a centre forward, you know, Joe Linton. He can still sometimes put him up front, you know. He's a big unit. He's a handful. I love him playing in his position. I mean, I think I said a long time ago, 4 years ago, then, you know, he signed from Hoffenheim. The goals that he had scored for Hoffenheim, he's playing on the wing, on the left-hand side at times. More times he was playing as a centre forward, but he could probably do a job for you, saying 10, 15 minutes, having a gamble, putting somebody else on midfield and sticking Joe Linton up front, putting the lad Osula on, stick him in there, you know, you need a goal. I like I say, we were comfortable. And sometimes you've got to take a chance because Calvert-Lewin was isolated in the fact that he's playing against probably 3 defenders at time. And he's a sharp player, you know. You got to have respect for these type of players, and he's a player that can win you a game. He's a match winner on his day, but I thought we coped with him easily, to tell you the truth. I'm going to give credit where credit's due. I don't give defenders a lot of credit, but can you tell us? You tell me, Steve. Tell me when Nick Pope had to make a save.
Yeah, he didn't. Really, he didn't. When he's called into action, he's always ready for the challenge. But yeah, I mean, very little to do for Nick Pope. 80% possession for Newcastle in that game at the weekend. Anthony Gordon took the penalty. I mean, he took the penalty with confidence against Man City. Tucked it away. Midweek, of course, we saw Fabian Shaw get the match-winning penalty against Wimbledon in the Carabao Cup. Were you surprised to see Gordon taking that penalty, you know, with all the pressure that goes with revisiting your old club and, you know, taking it on, you know, up against the supporters that used to love you but now hate you?
I'll give you one example. Last Stuart Pearce, when he took that penalty for England at Wembley. All them ghosts were buried, weren't they?
Yeah.
As simple as that. And I mean, Andy Gordon, remember, he scored the penalty against Man City and nobody's complaining. Yes, it's a free shot from 12 yards. Jordan Pickford's giving all that rollicks about him, outthinking him. He's his England goalkeeper. He practices penalties. He said about his routine. I'm thinking, Anthony, maybe he didn't tell too many people about your routine and this, that, and the other, because it's obviously stuck in Pickford's head. I mean, let's face it, it's going to stick in Pickford's head. There's loads of room, isn't there? Because there's obviously not enough room for a brain. What a donut. But at the end of the day, he got it right. He saved the penalty. It was a bad penalty. It was a weak penalty. I like to see penalties struck, you know. I like to see them knock the... Alan Shearer never placed the ball. Alan Shearer whacked the ball. You know, he knocked the case off it. Because the thing is, at that pace and power, when Shearer scored his penalties, you know, if it hits the goalkeeper, you know, he gets a deflection and goes in. You know, it hits the post and goes in. You know, it's hit with pace, and it was a nothing penalty, wasn't it? It was a poor penalty. Anthony Gordon will be the first one to admit that. But let's face it, nobody's blaming him for missing the penalty. He still had the Horlicks to go up and take the penalty, you know, and he wanted it. I mean, people are saying, why didn't Shaw take it because he scored against Wimbledon? It's a different kettle of fish. You're playing, you know, against Everton. It's his, like I say, it would have been a chance for him to shut all them people up that were slaughtering him and giving him stick for the move from Everton. Let's face it, Everton forget, they've got a massive transfer fee for Anthony Gordon. And we did well because we got the player. And he's a brilliant player. And I did think he was man of the match as well.
Yeah, I would say, it's very hard to criticise anybody, within the Newcastle team. And I think what we saw at the weekend was Bruno getting back to his best as well, Joe.
Well, this is the thing, people say, it's the captain's armband that's weighing him down and it's his family not being there. At the end of the day, Steve, players are allowed to have a little bit bad form, Yeah. They can sometimes go out there and they don't want to play badly. You go out there with all the great intentions, doing everything right and having a great game. But you're just human at the end of the day. Sometimes you have a bad run of form. Bruno, hopefully, after that display especially, has come right back there. If I was one little criticising point that I would have was on his chance, which got cleared off the line, which the defender knew absolutely nothing about. If he'd stuck his laces through the ball and lashed it with conviction, there again, it's like that one where it can hit a ricochet and gone in off anything. But because he hit it timidly, if you like, goalwards, all being well, it's a goal, because the defender didn't know nothing about it. But if he whacks it and puts his laces through the ball, I think he scores the goal. And then you think of that, then the penalty, and it's easy. Then you're thinking Newcastle 2-0 up away from home. Then you can keep your possession. You've won the game then. Then you can have your 80% possession. Then you can bring all your midfield players all in the world and, play passing the parcel. But that's the time to have your possession when you're up and you're in front. And then there's a little bit criticism to Eddie of not blooding the lad again in his Premier League debut. I don't think he's played up to now, has he? I don't know.
No, I mean, I think Asula deserves an opportunity, but after the international break, we're likely to see Callum Wilson come back in and Isak. I mean, I put a comment out on social media and I had some interaction with people after the game, and it was all rather level-headed, to be fair, rather than some of the abuse you can get on there. And it was just simple discussions. I've had these discussions with other Newcastle fans. People were saying, well, which forward would you have brought in the summer? Name me a good forward who will come in to Newcastle United. It'll be prepared to be third choice. Well, my argument is who's to say that they're going to be third choice, Joe? Because let's face it, the injury record that Callum Wilson's had at Newcastle, he misses a lot of game time, and Isak hasn't been, reliable either. They both carried injuries. They both had injuries. They both had a lot of time out. And you're telling me that somebody like the guy you mentioned, Duran at Aston Villa, or Jonathan David, who Newcastle were linked with in the summer, you're telling me that one of those wouldn't have looked at it in a footballer's perspective and gone, you know what? Out of all the teams I could go to Newcastle, I'd be going in as number 3 striker at this moment in time. But there's guaranteed to be an injury, and I'm going to take full advantage of that. Then surely it comes down to Eddie Howe to go, okay, he's going to get a game because he's the better player. He's in form. He's banging goals in. He's making it difficult for the droppers. That's how it happens, Joe, isn't it?
Definitely. And I mean, let's face it, I have had the little fishing rod in for you, because you did say that he did score Duran. And when he scored 2 in that one game the other week, I thought I was seeing the first time Duran had scored 2 and never sang a song.
Classic.
But I'll ask you this.
Am I right?
I'll ask you this. So we've got Isak. Last season, different class. Hasn't hit the ground running this season yet, even though he scored his goal, his tap in, whatever. And you've got Wilson, who hasn't been fit.
Yeah.
Man City, Liverpool, the Arsenal, Chelsea. There's 4. Would Isak and Callum Wilson getting any of their sides up front?
Fully fit Isak's got to get into one of their teams. There's no doubt about it.
I would agree.
Callum Wilson wouldn't, I don't think, on only on injury, on his injury. If you look at his record, Joe, 100 games or so at Newcastle, 50 goals.
Well, so that's brilliant. That's brilliant for his stats. That's brilliant for his stats and for his record. But the other thing is as well, you've mentioned that Asula can't get a game. for Newcastle. So
What does that say then?
Well, for me, and I've been critical of this, and I will be, it's the recruitment. You know, the recruitment. We haven't got enough forwards at the club. You know, for people's injuries, you have to have a plan in place. You know, you have to have contingency to have somebody. So if he goes out the time, you're not playing your best midfield player, who when he plays for England next week, hopefully against Finland, you know, he'd be playing in his favourite position at international level, but he's playing as centre forward for Newcastle United. It's a little bit unfair on Anthony Gordon, and yet he has took the bull by the horns, and he's been outstanding for me in the last couple of games. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, look, he plays, he's a Danish international, isn't he, Asula? But his league form, you know, he's not had much of a chance. He played for Sheffield United last season. And you know, he's played well in other leagues, but he's not the finished article. So for me, I would like to see him, you know, have that game against Wimbledon as he did. I'd like to have seen him come on against Everton, though, you know, and unfortunately it didn't happen. So it tells you, I think, where Eddie Howe is with him. He feels he's not ready enough. He's still not ready to come in and be part of it moving forward like that, you know. And if Wilson or Isak's back and fit, Asula's not going to get much of a chance, is he? I can't see him featuring, you know, much this season.
This is the thing when, you know, clubs have scrapped like the reserves and what have you. You know, they play under 23s and you can play older age players in the under 23s and what have you. But is Asula going to play in an under 23 game? Is Eddie going to learn about him in an under 23 game? I don't think so. So if he's not going to blood him in places like Wimbledon at home, at St James's Park, and bearing in mind, by the way, there was a full house there.
Yeah.
A full house. And that's a great game for him to come into. You know, you're going to get, I'm telling you the truth of experience, every one of them Newcastle supporters are going to be behind you. They're going to be kicking every ball for the young'un. They're going to be blowing the ball in the net for him. And that's the passion of the crowd that we've got. That's why we've always got the 12th man. That's why we're the best crowd and best football club in the world. But the difference is that was a perfect game for the blood him in. And he didn't play him, you know, like as regarding... he played him against Wimbledon, but he's not playing him in a Premier League game where, you know, his confidence of playing best part of the game against Wimbledon, didn't he? It's going to take him, like it might take him into, you know, it's a game of football at the end of the day. It's not who you play and what you're playing against. You know, it's 11 against 11 and one ball and a referee. You know, so that would have been a great time to put him on for half an hour. Give him half an hour against Everton, you know. That's my point anyway.
It's a good point. Good point, well made. But we're into the international break. What do you make of international breaks, Joe? I mean, does it stifle like a good run? Newcastle 1 defeat in 6. Do clubs look forward to this? Is it a time to sit back and how do players feel? Obviously, if you're not involved in international football, you're having to go in, I presume, weekend day in, day out to do your training. But half the lads aren't there; they're away on international duty. What kind of effect does that have on a team season?
Well, obviously, it's very important to have international football but with the amount of competitions. You know, that's available now. And then you've got the European competitions as well. There's a lot of games for footballers, but international football is always going to happen. I mean, I was thinking the season's just started and then somebody pointed out to us, we've played 9 games in the league. That's a quarter of the season now on, you know?
Yeah.
And like, you're thinking, Jesus, when you're thinking about it that way, you know, and it splits out. I mean, I think there's only 1 game, isn't there? There's 1 game against Finland, and there's no other games after that. So, you know, the international football break, obviously people want to play for the countries. I mean, let's face it, I've still got the record. When I played for England under 21s, I was the only player in the history of the game to get 2 caps in the same day. Me first and me last. But I love the fact that day when I played for England against Ireland in Dublin, like I was deemed to be, for my age, one of the best to represent my country. So there was 11 players of my age playing for for England that day, and I loved that. I love the fact that I got recognised to play even at that level. You know, it was great for me. I don't know if you've got 50 caps. I know every single England game for Alan Shearer meant the world to him. Every single time he played for England, every single time Peter Beardsley played for England, and every single time Paul Gascoigne played for England, it meant the world to them. You know, and that's just to name 3 of our outstanding England internationals that we had. But international football is going to happen. Do they need? I mean, they used to say you played on a Saturday, you reported, excuse me, you reported for duty on the Sunday morning or the Saturday evening after your game, depending on whether you come by horse and cart, carriage or pigeon. So you reported for duty, and then the game would invariably be on the Tuesday evening or the Wednesday evening. I remember as a kid watching many a game on a Wednesday evening. Who could forget Super Mac against Cyprus? Malcolm McDonald 5, Cyprus 0. Congratulations, Super Mac. You know, on a Wednesday night, I was watching it on BBC Sports Night with my dad, and it was like unbelievable. But on the Saturday, Super Mac was playing for Newcastle in domestic level. So the break was you finished football on the Saturday because there's no Sunday games. We used to play 3 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon. It was great days then. Then, you know, they would have light training on a Sunday after reporting for duty. They'd play the international football match. Then on the Thursday, they'd make the way home. I mean, I remember Nobby Solano telling me stories under Sir Bobby when he was travelling to Peru, playing a game, and Sir Bobby was making sure he was getting the first available flight back. He couldn't give a hoot, shall we say, about his jet lag or whatever. He wanted him back for the Saturday afternoon or the Sunday game, whatever it was, to play for Newcastle United. You know, and Nobby missed out, he's told us, on getting 100 caps for his country for Peru, because Sir Bobby turned around to Nobby and said, do you want to play for Peru or do you want to play for Newcastle United? That was his choice. And obviously Nobby, I think, was 3 caps short of playing 100, which is an astronomical amount of appearances for his country, bearing in mind that it's halfway around the world, you know?
Yeah. Amazing that game, Super Mac 5, Cyprus 0. We've heard the story many times. Malcolm's told it on here as well. And it's something I always think of whenever England play, because you just hope that Malcolm's record will stand.
It'll never be beaten for one reason, Steve, because it'll be the old Wembley where that happened. So it might happen at the new Wembley, but they'll never take it away for Super Mac. And by the way, can we just wish Malcolm all the very best and a speedy recovery? We know he's been a little bit poorly, but we love him daily. Love you, Super Mac.
Yeah, we do, mate. Great stuff. He's doing okay, so I've been told so far. So it'd be great to have him back on at some point in the near future. Just want to talk about Joe's career. I said at the start of the show we were going to have a chat about Joe's career, and we stumbled across this little beauty, didn't we? Which is it's a little write-up about you by the club historian Paul Joannou in the Who's Who book, Joe. I'll read it out here. He says, as a youngster, blonde-haired Joe Allon scored almost 120 goals for United's reserve and junior sides in less than 150 games, and even overshadowed Paul Gascoigne in the same Magpie lineup as Newcastle United's kids won the FA Youth Cup. An 18-year-old debutant who really should have been given a better chance in the club's senior lineup, he rivaled 2 other centre-forwards, Tony Cunningham and Billy Whitehurst, both of whom registered mediocre records in a Magpie shirt. Dogged by a knee injury at a crucial time in his United career, Allon was released by manager Willie McFall as a 20-year-old, even though he was the club's overall top scorer in each of the previous 3 seasons. Joe earned a second opportunity in the big time, this time with Chelsea, after becoming the most potent striker in the 4th division during 1990-91 with 28 goals. Again, though, his chances were limited and he drifted around the lower divisions for the remainder of his career, but always grabbing goals. Allon ended his career after recurring knee problems with a more than respectable total of 135 goals in 361 senior outings, and notably and then obviously it goes on to talk about other things. But yeah, I mean, you made your place in history, Joe. What did you make when we read through that?
Well, they've nicked a few goals off us for a start, because obviously Well, you can tell straight away, right? I'm telling you the truth, but don't steal me women, steal me money. Didn't steal my goals. Do not nick my goals. No, the 28 goals for Hartlepool were 28 league goals, by the way. That season I scored 35, just to put the record straight. And the 3 times I was top scorer, I won the Golden Boot 3 years running, and Willie McFall gave us the boot.
Yeah.
We'll come to that one. Anyway, no, the fact is, that's great, the lovely stats and whatever, yeah, but all them goals that I scored in the reserves in the junior side before me debut for the first team, could never, all of them, culminate in that one goal I wanted to score on a black and white shirt at St James's Park. So you can have all them goals, and I loved every single one of them, trust us, but it wouldn't have meant anything unless I'd scored in the first team at St James's Park.
I mean, tell us just a little bit about how you came to, you came to play for Newcastle. Just tell us that story, Joe. Who signed you? How did it happen? Well,
back in the day, obviously there wasn't academies back when we played as kids. You played for your school. You played if you were good enough, you played for your town team or your district team. At my stage, when I'd moved from Gateshead to Washington as a very youngster, and I played for Washington Boys, captained them, and in Chesley Street, I captained them. Chesley Street had a great reputation of their ex-players that were captain of Chesley Street, like I were Colin Todd, the great Derby Forest England defender, Colin Suggett, who ended up being my coach at Newcastle United, was a great player for Norwich and Sunderland, and Brian Robson, the captain of England, who was obviously Manchester United Captain Marvel. So that was like, if you played at that level, there would be Brussels sprouts there, as we used to call them, scouts, and you used to get spotted. And we played probably representative football from being 10-year-old. I can remember being 10-year-old along with Gaza and in the school holidays after you'd been spotted by a scout. Back in the day, there was the late Brian Watson, who was a beautiful, beautiful man. He had a great scouting team consisting of Peter Kirtley, a la Walsend Boys Club, and Brian Clark, who was wonderful, wonderful. All 3 of them were just brilliant recruitment, if you like. Well, it had to be because I got me in Gaza. But the fact is that there was no academy, so in the school holidays, we go and train. We meet at St James's Park, and then we go up to Benwell on a minibus, and we'd play there every school holiday from being 10-year-old to the age of 14, if you were asked to go, because they got in touch with you. And there was a thing, as a 14-year-old, you signed an associated schoolboy form. Now, that basically tied you to that professional club so that you couldn't play for any other professional club in the country. And basically at 14, I got offered that chance, which is a good story about it, actually. I mean, I remember my dad obviously was a fervent Sunderland supporter, but a football supporter, because he used to tell me when he worked at the pit all the years ago that some of his mates would watch Sunderland one week and watch Newcastle the next week, and they'd walk there. They wouldn't even get the bus. They would walk to St James's, they'd walk to Roker Park, because it would save them some money so they could have a few pints, which is logic. And the fact is that it was all to do with football. I mean, I used to go to Sunderland when I was at Ben with my mates. I used to go with my dad. The first game I ever went to was at St James's Park with one of my neighbours, was called Kenny Pleasance. He had a car, and he took us as a 7-year-old in 1973 to watch Newcastle against Tottenham at SGP. And Supermac was playing centre forward, and that was the day I fell in love with a bloke in a football shirt, and I probably have been ever since. My hero as a footballer, Supermac. And when it come to 14, my dad was kidding along, and there was obviously rumours that I was going to get approached by Newcastle United. And the late great Joe Harvey, who was chief scout at the time, had come to sign us in Washington. And anyway, I was upstairs, and there was one of them grills that used to be like the central heating thing, and I could see the front door, and I could see the window, the carport, if you like. And this Ford Granada pulled up. The guy comes out with a big black coat on, and I'm looking, and it's like, I'm aware it's Joe Harvey. Anyway, my dad's been on, I don't know, 6 till 2 shift at the pit, whatever it was shift he was on, whatever. And there was a knock at the door. He'd been at work. I can't remember where he was working, to tell you the truth, but he'd been at work. And he was twisting because nobody answered the door. And I wasn't answering the door because I could see out the window was Joe Harvey. Anyway, I heard my dad cursing and what have you, and he gets up, answers the front door. My dad, very, very respected man. And he said, hello, Mr. Harvey. Straight away, he had his vest on, his braces, whatever. He said, I've come to sign your Joe. He said, oh, my dead body. He's not signed for them, black and white. And he went, anyway, come in, Mr. Harvey. Well, I'm upstairs. I'm having kittens, basically, you know. I'm thinking, what's he doing, you know? Like, to the point I'm going to jump out the window. Anyway, they're waffling on, talking, and I can hear them through this vent from the living room, from the bedroom to the living room, you know. Very posh houses, them, one of them days. And the fact was, they waffled on, and it got to about, this was 6:30, and it got to about 10 to 7. And I saw the best pass that Joe Harvey ever made in his whole career, in my opinion. He went to his inside pocket of his top coat and pulled out a half bottle of Bell's whiskey. My father got the 2 glasses. He poured the glasses, put it this way, I'd signed for Newcastle by 7 o'clock. And that was probably the first step of the highlights I've had in my career. Brilliant. And my dad was joking with us, saying, do you think for 1 minute I was never going to let you sign for them? It's Newcastle United, son. Back in them days, Steve, they used to get like associate schoolboy forms to when you were 16, so 14 to 16. Yeah. So that you were then consigned to Newcastle United. A lot of the young lads my age got 2 years schoolboy, 2 years apprenticeship, and the lucky ones got 2 years professional. So they were getting a 6-year contract, believe it or not. At that age of 14, I didn't get that. I was only signed till I was 16. So I was precarious. I was on the roll, if you like. But my education become a little bit stronger. I was representing then Durham County under 15s, where I was captain and playing at a very high standard of schoolboy football. And I started playing for the junior team, the under 19s at Benwell. And sometimes in the away games, I'd get like half an hour. Yeah. And Colin Suggett was my youth team coach then, and he was in charge. And he used to put us on as a 15-year-old schoolboy, you know, and I did all right. You know, I scored goals. And playing with the big lads, these lads were 18 and 19 years of age. I was 14, 15-year-old. And I loved it. I loved playing against the big ones because I loved the physical side of it, you know. And I loved the mental side of it because I knew I could score goals. And that wasn't being big-headed. That was just, I knew what I was good at. And I got to 16 and I'd never been made apprentice like till then. So what happened was this government brought out this thing called a Youth Opportunity Programme, which was a year's contract. Basically, the government paid 25 quid and the football club paid 20 quid to me parents for me board and lodgings, fortunes. So we were on that. But previous to that, as a 15-year-old, Arthur Cox, the manager at the time, when I was a schoolboy, played us in a reserve game. There was only one sub, and we played Derby County at St James's Park. And I come on for 15 minutes. It was 0-0. And I scored the winner, 1-0. And I went to school the next morning, didn't think anything of it. And the next thing, they'd realised that I wasn't on any contract. So I'd had this youth opportunities program of a year. Basically, I could have left the club if I wanted after that because I hadn't signed us. At which time, Jack had then become manager, and then he made us a professional as a 17-year-old. So I became a pro a lot younger than the other lads, you know. And that basically was my history of how I come to signing for the club, you know.
Amazing stuff.
I could have been on that threshold, on that tightrope, if you like, of being hired out, or I could have wanted to leave. I never wanted it. I never crossed my mind, but I never had that safety net, if you like. I never had that luxury of having a contract, and you know that's what we were on. We're on 45 quid a week, 25 from the government, and 20 quid for parents of a football club. And me and Gaz were on that contract, you know.
Hold that thought. We'll come back after the ads. A big thanks to all our sponsors, Skips and Bins. You can find them at skipsandbins.com. Contact them, www.skipsandbins.com/contact. Say hello to low-cost waste disposal with pay-as-you-go and contract waste management. A big thanks to Mr. Vicky's Sauces, handmade in Cumbria. Their website, mrvickies.co.uk. Telephone 01768 210 102 or email info@mrvickies.co.uk. Thanks to our NUFC Matters fanzine sponsor, United Group Travel. Travel and Tourism Award winners 2024. There are no strangers on our tours, just friends you haven't met yet. All excursions included, 3-star plus quality hotels, no interchanges, a 2-crew driver and courier. It's a local family company, and you can find them at www.unitedgrouptravel.com or telephone 01670 632 460 or mobile 0791 666 4174. Big thanks to Media Arts for all the help with the technical side of things. And if you want to help support the channel, hit the subscribe button. We do 7 shows a week. Hit the thumb up under the video. That's the like button. It does help us grow. And click the share button. Help share to your social media. If you want to join the channel for as little as $1.99 a month, then hit the join button under this video today. We also help the food bank on this channel. Visit nufcfansfoodbank.co.uk. It takes you to the match day bucket where you can donate some money virtually. Some events for your diary in aid of Dementia Matters. The Long Sands will be reforming and be supported by Lilac Lane and the Chris Norris Band at the Cluny in Newcastle on Saturday, January the 4th, 2025. Tickets are £15 pre-sale from newcastlelegends.com. An evening with Peter Beardsley takes place at the Tyneside Irish Centre on the 10th of January 2025. Tickets available from newcastlelegends.com or from Woucher. And an evening with the Entertainers takes place on the 24th of January 2025. Telephone the box office 0844 249 1000 or visit the website tynetheatreandoperahouse.uk. And the Magpie Lounge at the Gateshead Leisure Centre is now open. 7 talk-ins for £99. Joe Allon will be hosting talk-ins with Lee Clark, John Anderson, Steve Howie, Darren Peacock, Supermac, Steve Watson, John Beresford, all between the dates of January and July. £99 for 7 talk-ins, newcastlelegends.com. Welcome back. And we were just getting into Joe's arrival at Newcastle and Joe Harvey, great story. And of course, you mentioned Gaza. We've had a couple of Gaza stories off here already, but I've got to ask you, Joe, did you always think that Gaza would be, you know, the best player in the world? Could you see that this young lad from Dunstan and Gateshead was going to be the best player in the world at one point in 1990?
Well, to tell you the honest truth, no. I mean, when I was apprentice and we were together, I got the task of being in charge of him because I was head apprentice. So basically, you've got to give all the apprentices jobs to do. Clean the toilets, clean the bath. I mean, it wouldn't be heard of. They'll probably be putting complaints into the government for slave labour, you know. But we did everything from cleaning the outhouses to cleaning the houses, and kit, putting it out, cleaning boots, obviously. You know, everything from hoovering, painting and decorating. We used to paint the dressing rooms in the summer. We used to paint the ground, believe it or not. And stuff like on the terraces after the Saturday game, especially when Keegan was playing when we were apprentices, you know, the full house, 38,000. And I mean, me and Gazza used to get about, I don't know, four or five quid pocket money from the Gallagher. I know it was in stuff that you didn't want to talk about that people do when they've had a few pints. And the coins were just swimming around and things like that. And, you know, there was some unbelievable things you can find at a football match, by the way, but we're not getting into that. But that was the task of the apprentice. So I was in charge, and so I was given the unenviable, you know, task of giving them jobs to do, which was impossible, you know. And the fact about him was he was a character, you know, and that was one thing that he had. I mean, half the time I used to find him in the cupboard, I say the cupboard, it was like a bloody cupboard. The outhouse that was like where the groundsman used to go, and he'd be sitting having a cup of tea with them, you know, and I'd be thinking, you little sod, get in there and do your jobs and what have you. And he'd gone straight back out again and sit with the old boys, you know, and chew the fat with them. But you couldn't take that away from you, because if you took that away from you, you were taking Paul Gascoigne away from being Paul Gascoigne, you know. And he was phenomenal. I mean, it was one day when he come into training one day, and I could see him limping. And we used to get there an hour before the pros, you know, and he was, I was saying, what's the matter with you? You know, and he had this bloody cut on his leg, and it wasn't so much a cut, it was a hole in his leg. He'd been messing on, clotting on with Jimmy Five Bellies the night before. They'd nicked this motorbike, and he was riding this motorbike doing wheelies. He'd come off the motorbike, and the motorbike, one of the parts of the motorbike, whether it be a spoke or whatever, it went through his knee. There was a hole in his leg, and he was trying to cover it up, you know, because he wanted to train. He didn't want to get wrong. He didn't want to get told off. And there's this blood seeping out, and I'm saying, you've got to go and see the phys. You've got to see the physio, you know, that this is bad, Gaza. You know, and he was going, didn't tell him. I'm saying, listen, I'll square it on. And we tried to cover it up until Colin Suggett, he got wise to it, you know, and he seen that there was this gash in his leg, you know, and he got hold of the coals from it, you know, and everybody got a strict telling off, because you were apprentice professional, you were a professional footballer. You didn't go fannying on with motorbikes and what have you. All these street fights that you were getting into, them had to stop, and all that trouble, getting in trouble with the police and bringing coppers to the door and all that was a no. If you did it, you're out on your ear, you know. So Gaza then, obviously, he had ability. I'd seen that from being from 10-year-old, and we played all the way through, you know. And obviously, we were done a little bit better speed than the other lads, so we were playing higher level as regarding the youth team and the reserves and being regulars, you know. But the one thing I can say about Paul, I mean, when he got to like 17, I mean, we used to train, Steve. We used to train every single afternoon. And there's a brilliant picture of the late, great Glenn Roder there, who was very influential in Paul's career. I love Glenn and I miss Glenn. He was a real gentleman. And my first captain, he was a great guy. So thanks for throwing that one in on us. But Gaza was, you know, if I can say, he was an ugly duckling that became the most beautiful swan. And that's not me being Hans Christian Andersen. That was this way I could sum him up. When I was playing, you've got to understand, he was my main playmaker for me scoring goals. So without Paul Gascoigne, there was no Joe Allon. Paul Gascoigne made me, because invariably the majority of my goals were made by Gaza, you know, and that's how crucial he was. And we'll always say, and he'll say now to this day, we were two good players in the FA Youth Cup winning team out of an unbelievable Youth Cup squad that had been together not for months or years. We're talking years we were together, because these same core, if you like, of youngsters grew up together all the way through. There might have been a couple of changes here and there. I mean, in the last year, we got Kevin Scott. And I said to Suggy, I said, when I played against him in a youth game, I said to Suggy, I said, you've got to sign this lad. He says, why? I said, well, did I score? He went, no. I said, did I play well? He went, well, not really. I went, sign him. And Kevin Scott went on to captain the club. So the club owe me about 750 grand that they got for Tottenham for him, because without me, they wouldn't have signed Kevin Scott. Well, he went on to be a great player for Newcastle United and captained the squad, captained the club, and absolutely loved being at the club until he got that big move to Tottenham.
Just looking at the FA Youth Cup as well, Joe. I mean, that we've seen the photograph. We use the photograph on your flyer for the show, and it's something which you must look back on with an immense amount of pride. To be the 1985 FA Youth Cup winners, and you and Gazza did your bit, and the final itself was something special.
Yeah, I mean, the whole lot of I mean, I played in the FA Youth Cup 3 years. So I played when I was 16, when I was 17, when I was 18. So if you're under 19, you're allowed to play in the FA Youth Cup. And if people don't realise, it's basically the equivalent of the big FA Challenge Cup. And you've got youth teams, you've got associations, non-league things that can all enter this FA Youth Cup. And it culminates the qualifying rounds, blah, 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 to get to play the professional clubs, And I was gutted from, I think I played as a 16-year-old, I scored a couple of goals against Hull at St James's. And that was probably the 3rd time I played at St James's Park, because I had a couple of run-outs in the reserves or what have you. But I played there and we won 2-0 and we're in the big league, the big 4th round of the FA Youth Cup, where you're probably 4 games away from being in the final, and we got knocked out that year and I was devastated. And then when we were 17, all that core of players was coming together and I really fancied us, and we got knocked out, and then it was unbelievable, and some daft like the quarterfinals. And I knew that when we entered the competition that year, when we're all getting towards, we should have been under 19 and we were getting towards being under 19. We weren't 16, 17. We were getting towards 17 and 18, and some of them were 19, And then we became the team that won the FA Youth Cup. And I scored in every round apart from 1. I got 2 in the final. Gazza scored 2 in the final. Gazza, that night for me, was absolutely unbelievable. You'll probably be able to watch the match on YouTube or on Betamax, it's that old. But he was unbelievable to the point where I thought he's going to be, that's it. The penny has dropped. He's going to be a player. I didn't see him being the world-class player he become, but Newcastle United certainly had nurtured and got Paul Gascoigne to the point where he's going to be a worldwide star.
Great stuff, mate. Great stuff. And I know the viewers will be loving these kind of recollections. Something that's quite an emotional thing for you was your departure from Newcastle, Joe. I mean, by reading Paul Giovanni's piece that we read out earlier, your goal scoring record was second to none. Even Paul Giovanni thinks that you should have been given that opportunity ahead of the likes of Billy Whitehurst and Tony Cunningham at the time. He tends to say that it was an injury that led to the decision. But I mean, what was the real reason that Newcastle United got rid of you?
Well, just as Joan Rivers does, drink Coke, everybody. You might get money for that. The fact that it was the worst thing that had ever happened to us, Steve, in my whole life. To that day, there was 3 people who got free transfers. There was Alan Davis, the late great Alan Davis, Ian Stewart, Northern Ireland International, and me. And I thought my world had come to an end. I'd obviously had the highs of scoring in the number 9 shirt, and I'd been unlucky as regarding getting a run in the side. It might have been injuries, but a lot of the time I'd had Peter Beardsley and Chris Waddle in front of us. And to be honest, that wasn't a bad thing for us, because the grounding that I've got playing with international footballers, World Cup players in Waddle and Beardsley. I mean, and most of majority of my games was with Pedro. And to say it was a pleasure to play with Pedro would be the understatement of the year. He's the most unselfish player I ever played with, an absolute magician. I mean, he played in 2 World Cups, made Gary Lineker, and we weren't the tallest, we weren't the best looking, but I tell you what, we could play football. When I'm playing on a Saturday afternoon against 6'8" centre halves, then you wish you were 6 foot, 6'2". But that never bothered us, the size, because the fact is that you can play with the ball and what have you, and you can also use your body strength and what have you. And there was big lads that come to the club in George Riley before that, Tony Cunningham, and then Big Bill, who's a very, very close friend, Billy Whitehurst. And if he says it's Friday, by the way, it's Friday, and that's on a Tuesday afternoon, evening. But the fact is, I did get a bad injury after my first goal, and I tried to come back too quickly, if you like. And then it was very, very difficult getting in the side because Billy was record signing. And the manager, who was eventually going to give us a free transfer, played Billy because he bought him. You know, he played Peter Beardsley because he was world class. Nobody's got a problem with that. But then Paul Goddard was coming to the club. They were buying players just after me. I mean, Paul Goddard was there when I was there. So you've got Peter Beardsley, Paul Goddard, and Billy Whitehurst. Joe Allon's getting further and further down the pecking order, you know.
Yeah.
And it was a wrench to leave Newcastle United. But when I left the club that day, I was in there for as little as 5 seconds with Willie McFall. And I wasn't gracious, to say the least. And I never thought that Willie, in the whole of my career, fancied it. He was my reserve team manager. And you're talking about all these goals I'm scoring. And yeah, I was top scorer. I was the Golden Boot winner, 3 years off the trot. Yeah. And I was braying on the manager's door. I was knocking the door down, wanting to play. But I was asking for transfers to show me displeasure in not being. I mean, when you're scoring a hat-trick against Man United on a Saturday afternoon at Old Trafford, and Man United's got Jesper Olsen, Peter Barnes, Kevin Moran's marking us, Mark Hughes is up front, and I'm scoring a hat-trick and we win 3-0 at Old Trafford. I want to know why I'm not in the squad. Yes, there was only one sub in them days, but I wanted to play. I was good enough to play. I wanted to play. And I was gutted when I got that wrench. And I said to Willie McFall, and I said to him, and I mean no disrespect, but I said, I'll come back and haunt you, you know. And it took a long journey to get back into the big leagues again, you know, and Swansea and Hartlepool, being beloved Hartlepool. But that year when I scored all them goals for Hartlepool, I won the North East Football of the Year, and I saw Willie McFall, and he was going up the stairs. And I just said to him, thanks for your inspiration. And that month I signed for Chelsea, you know. But I wasn't being nasty.
Yeah.
Because all I wanted to do was stay. If I'd played for Newcastle United for the whole of my career, that would have done me. If I'd played that one game and I didn't score against Stoke, that would have done me. If I'd scored in the number 9 shirt, that would have done me. So you can say I might have surpassed that, but I would have loved the chance to have come back. I had the opportunity to come back, and that was took away from us by Chelsea Football Club. When I would have walked on my hands and knees over broken glass. Newcastle were probably 3rd, 4th bottom of the 2nd division. Chelsea were top 5 in the top flight. And yet I would have moved from Chelsea, not without a whisper, shadow's breath. And who knows? It never happened.
Who was the manager?
Osvaldo Ortiz was manager.
Wow.
And it was Tony Galvin who was trying to get it happen, but Chelsea wanted a fee. They didn't want us to come on loan. And that was that. I had to stay at Chelsea. And after that, I ended up going to Port Vale, who were in the same division. And I played against Newcastle, probably only twice I've ever played against Newcastle. And that day, I promised Kevin Scott just the markers on the halfway line because I'll not be going in the penalty area. I wasn't scoring against Newcastle United. I didn't give a hoot Who knows it? But I tell you now, and I know my managers knew that as well. And I apologise to the opposition fans, but I wasn't going to be known as the player that put Newcastle United down, and I wasn't going to be scoring against Newcastle United. Total lack of professionalism, told what you want. It was my choice. I made it.
Let's finish off, Joe, just with a quick story about the goal that everyone probably remembers that Rob Lee should have scored but didn't score. It was when David Beckham had scored a goal for Manchester United over the halfway line. Rob Lee also scored one. But tell us your version of events of that. Rob's told it on this platform before. I think you were playing for Brentford.
Well, I don't know why you're laughing, because I didn't find it very funny, to be honest. No, what happened was the fabulous Rob Lee, God love him, honestly, what a fantastic player, Rob Lee, by the way. It was great to see him the other day. I met Rob Lee, as you know. Steve, he got issued into the Hall of Fame for England. Can you believe that? Wow. Unbelievable. So when they went to the international match, Rob Lee got issued in the Hall of Fame. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. The irony of it is he was on the same table as Sir Geoff Hurst. And Sir Geoff Hurst asked Rob Lee what he was there for, and he says to get issued into the Hall of Fame. And Geoff Hurst said, "That's funny, I haven't been issued with that." Yeah. I thought that was brilliant. But I've went in anyway. I'm not scoring. This is my second time I played against Newcastle United, and I said to the centre half that day, I said, "Listen, I'm not getting in the penalty area. It's not a problem." And Newcastle, then under Kevin Keegan, were magnificent, you know. And I remember I was close to the goalkeeper down, and I wasn't getting booed off the fans. It was great, because all the other opposition players that I'd ever saw at St James's Park got booed, but they must have had a little spot for us somewhere along the line, and I loved that. And anyway, Newcastle were far and away the best side. Anyway, the goalkeeper's made this goal kick, and I'm trotting back from closing the goalkeeper down. I can't remember if it was Pav or whether it was Tommy Wright. I can't remember the goalkeeper. But I'd closed, I was just meandering back to the halfway line. But as our goalkeepers kicked it, I'm in offside position. But I'm looking, Rob Lee has chested the ball down inside his own half before David Beckham had ever even thought of this, by the way. And then with one touch, Rob Lee has absolutely cracked it, sailing over the top of our goalkeeper's head into the top corner at the Lee's end. And I'm going, "What a goal, Rob, lad. Whoa, get in." And the linesman's going, "Offside." He's like that. And I'm going, no, it's not. And and my players are looking at me, and Rob Lee's going, "Oh, you." And I'm going, "No, it's Anyway, I was deemed to be offside, and Rob didn't get that goal. Probably been the best goal that he ever scored, without a shadow of a doubt, of all the great goals he did score. But sorry for that one, Rob. I really didn't mean it.
Joe, we could talk to you all day. The clock has beaten us. A great show. We will be back on next week, and we're going to do a show for Big Up as well. So make sure that if you're not on that link, people, that you do go and subscribe to our channel at www.bigup.com/NUFC Matters. But for now, Joe Allon, thanks very much, mate. Take care.
My pleasure, Steve. Thank you.